So many of our favorites to watch. Oh look, now they're being bashed. I guess that's what we should expect on the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast.
Look out for weirdos! Welcome to the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast, where we look back at movies and TV shows we loved and wait patiently for them to be torn apart by a younger generation. I'm your host, Tim, and I'm joined, as usual, by my brother, John.
Hello.
Together, we stand bravely against the tide of criticism from the younger generation. Chance.
That's me.
And Kylen.
Hello.
Before we get into today's topic, some quick housekeeping stuff. If you're enjoying our podcast, please consider a like or subscribe. You can also find our merch by going to redbubble.com and searching Bullied Pod. If you think we can do better, please send us an email, bulliedpod@gmail.com, and let us know what your suggestions are. How is everybody feeling?
I'd be better if I didn't have to watch this movie, but that's a...
Spoiler alert, I hated this movie.
No, yeah, so did I. That's crazy.
No one likes spoilers, Chance.
It's pretty much a norm in this situation.
How did Nana let you guys watch this movie?
She didn't. I called John earlier, and I found out that the answer is she didn't. John was sneaking around Nana's back watching this terrible movie.
You both thought of that specifically?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Yes.
The
Okay.
opening intro has
women
a
in this
head
movie wear
exploding.
lingerie, if not some of the men. What Nana doesn't know doesn't hurt her.
The intro has a head exploding, and Nana wouldn't let you have any bad guys except for the penguin.
Well, my upbringing was different than John's. All the head explodes he wants. Okay, well, I'm fascinated by the fact that both of you came to the same question. So we're definitely going to have to dive into that a little bit later. But this is the 43rd episode of our podcast, meaning that the 50th episode is right around the corner.
And we're scared because we don't know what we're doing.
Well, yeah, we do want to make a big deal out of it, mostly because none of us ever thought we would get to 50 episodes.
I thought we were going to get to 3.
Yeah. How do people feel about getting to 50?
Ugh. I'm just overwhelmed with the reality that I've seen more terrible movies than most people will ever watch in their lifetime.
Well, you probably could have said that before we started this podcast.
I didn't know you'd be watching 50 episodes.
I think we've watched 2 good movies in this podcast.
I just didn't realize this podcast would still be going on by the time I was a dad. I couldn't have foreseen that.
Yeah, you're going to have to deal with a child and still manage this podcast.
If it makes you feel any better, one day they'll manage this podcast.
We're passing it down. It's the curse of Raw. It passes through your bloodline or whatever.
I kind of feel like we're in a slow season for the podcast, but even with my extremely unapproachable intro to the first episode of this season with the Fluppy War, the podcast continues to grow. I received an email from a podcast data tracking company last week, and they told me that we're the 29th biggest podcast about nostalgia. 14th specific to movies and TV nostalgia.
Weird.
A decent statistic, I guess. I don't know.
Very specific. Yeah. Did you narrow it down to nostalgia podcasts out of Grand Prairie? Did we get up to like 5th place?
No, they only give you based on 3 categories.
They would give us 5th place, John? What? I don't think there are that many nostalgia-based podcasts coming from Grand Prairie.
Well, Sexsmith though, right, Chance?
Yeah, there's a couple out here.
All right. Well, with that, we should get into today's movie. The new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson is out August 1st. Marking what is potentially the return of spoof movies. So it actually works in our favor that John's pick won the vote for what is today's episode. To catch people up to speed, today's episode was decided by a popular vote. John, do you want to tell us a little bit about the video we'll be discussing today and how you leveraged your bots to make sure it happened?
Tim, I understand that sometimes we get afraid. We're scared when we feel like maybe Land Before Time would win out on a poll above Descendants. And so I can understand that fear makes us do things we wouldn't normally do, like use bots for a poll. But I can assure you that every person who voted for this movie was a human.
The human John knows.
Every person that voted was John.
Yeah, every person that voted was the same person? Is that what you...
There's no limit on the amount of email accounts you can create. Hold on. I don't understand. How is it that the most logical conclusion is that I somehow coerced this vote? Spy Hard is a cherished film, and I think our listeners voted appropriately.
So, John just brought it up. The movie that we watched was Spy Hard, the Leslie Nielsen movie, and I'm desperately trying to resist getting into the weeds on this, but I don't know how many people cherish this movie. It is a very small amount, if any. This movie has a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And earned 7%.
And even the director hates it, which we will get into a little bit later. But the reason why I believe that John had a personal impact on the polling results was that he asked me for a link to the poll, and then I checked it hours later. Despite that poll having been live for numerous weeks, all of a sudden, Spy Hard took a drastic lead within a few hours of me giving him that link.
Before that,
Sorry,
who would
Kent.
have been first if not for John?
Speed Racer
Yeah.
looked to be the movie that we were going to do today.
For good reason. Speed Racer is a fascinating
my heart.
movie.
Oh boy.
Hey, I warned you that you could have also gotten multiple email accounts.
This was an
Hard.
unpopular vote, not a popular.
Before we jump into this movie, John, is there anything that you would like to say to the people who voted for Spy Hard?
Sure. To those of you who voted, I don't know you. I don't know your names or your faces.
Or your
From
home
all the
addresses.
different countries around the world. I'd like to thank you for recognizing art and using your voting capacity to make our world a better place.
I do have one question that I do feel I need answered, John. Did you get mom and dad to vote for this?
You know, hypothetically, if I was trying to get someone to vote for it, it would be much easier to get someone who has a technical prowess to vote. I may have been on a vacation with my dad, and he was on Facebook, and he scrolled past the voting link. I might have said, "Hey, look here," and we might have had a conversation about it. Are you telling me that these people don't have free will? That's so insulting that they wouldn't be able to choose the movie they wanted to. Can we just be clear here? Spy Hard was not up against some great competition. Mom and Dad Save the World, Speed Racer, old Lego movie before Lego movies were cool.
Okay. Well, with that, we will get into Spy Hard. Spy Hard is a 1996 movie. It is meant to draw from the massive popularity that Leslie Nielsen had as a spoof movie actor. Leslie Nielsen's biggest movies, though he would do many movies over the years, were infamously the Naked Gun movies, which all poked fun at cop movies, for lack of a better term. They would become extremely famous. He would do a number of them over the years. Disney would finance this movie hoping to replicate what Naked Gun was. Unfortunately, those movies are very well regarded This one, not so much.
7% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's still pretty good, though.
Yeah, somebody liked it. And I will say, too, that the rules of our podcast meant that we probably couldn't do the Naked Gun movies while I saw them growing up. I'm not sure if John did, and we definitely didn't own them. Spy Hard was the next best thing. Chance, can you tell us what Spy Hard is?
Well, the incompetent secret agent, Dick Steele, or WD-40 as he's known, has to take down the supervillain Rancor with the attempt of his sidekick, Kabul, hoping to rescue Barbara Dahl, the daughter of his long-lost love, Victoria Dahl, and then shenanigans and hijinks ensue, which really doesn't progress the plot anywhere except for the last 10 minutes.
When there's dinosaurs.
Yeah,
When there's
dinosaurs
dinosaurs.
are plot.
John, did you watch this movie by yourself?
No, Ryan from our Beethoven's second episode.
Mm.
I told him that this was our podcast episode, and he said, I haven't seen that one. I've seen the Naked Gun movies, but I need to see this. So
There's good
he and I
reason.
watched it last night.
Did he enjoy it?
Let's just say we both laughed out loud often.
Okay. Wow. I can't say the same thing.
No.
Kai and I genuinely laughed one time.
I think you laughed a second time, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think so too. But there was legitimately one part when he's riding the horse off a building and the horse audibly says, "Whoa!" That part caught us off guard and we did both burst out laughing.
I burst out laughing when he was on his parachute and he drops the bottle of bourbon and hits a guy and the guy just slumps to the ground without a sound. That was very funny to me.
Okay.
Besides that, I didn't really laugh.
Oh, I was about to ask if you
And
had
they-
more laughs.
No, and then after that, they tried the bit again where a guy falls on him. Less funny.
What?
John, what's happening?
Jokes are so good.
No, they aren't.
Okay. I've got a couple of laugh out loud. When he's looking at the photo of his previous lover, the photo is of her falling off.
Actually, that was
the second laugh.
That was the other
second
time
laugh.
I laughed.
Yeah.
Yes, I will give you that, John. That was a great bit.
Sorry, we talked over that. He's looking at a photo of his dead lover, and the photo of her is mere seconds, like, as she's falling off a cliff.
Yeah, it's a picture of her falling to her death that he keeps to look at. That was the other time that I laughed. That was a very good bit. I acknowledge that, John.
I guess just speaking to the idea that this is a spoof movie. And so I was going to start talking about jokes that referenced other movies, but I don't think we've even talked about it being necessarily a spoof.
I did kind of mention that, but we didn't go into any detail. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think the only spoof movie we've done for this podcast would be Spaceballs. Mm-hmm. And while it does touch on other genres and other movies, for the most part, that is heavily inspired by Star Wars. The Naked Gun movies, this movie, when you talk about scary movies and all those other movies.
They're inspired by a genre rather than a movie?
Yeah, they take from everything. This movie's title is Spy Hard. It's meant to mirror Die Hard, even though there's no other reference to Die Hard in this movie. So, yeah, there's references in this. There were a handful of times when I paused and I turned to Kai and I said, okay, that's a reference to this movie or this movie or this movie. So there's references in here to True Lies. We mentioned Jurassic Park.
Sister Act.
Sister
Home Alone.
Act.
Home Alone. That was a weird
Okay,
one.
I want to start by saying I believe spoof humor is one of the lowest forms of comedy. All you're doing is taking away from the artistic work that somebody else has already done. And so when I was watching this movie, they got to Sister Act, and I said to myself, I think I hate this movie.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we have to introduce our newest agent. And it was Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. And I said, I do hate this movie.
Hey, but that was a laugh out loud moment. The bad guys come because the Macaulay Culkin character from Home Alone, he's supposed to be protecting the scientist. So he has all his house traps rigged up. But then the bad guys show up and his traps kind of suck. And the bad guys just beat him up. It was so funny.
Chance, I think what you're calling spoof humor is what I would just put under the label of referential humor. It's not trying to make a joke, but instead saying, remember this other thing that you thought was funny or weird? Well, what if that was in this movie now?
Yeah. Mel Brooks is the one who famously put spoof movies on the map. He did several of them, Spaceballs being the one that we've watched for this podcast. But he did things like Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Mel Brooks is the daddy of spoof movies. I don't know if I love spoof movies. As a kid, I did, but I went back and tried to watch Robin Hood Men in Tights as an adult, and I couldn't do it. I had to turn it off. Even the stuff that I used to love just didn't hold me anymore. Spaceballs was an interesting experience for me because I did still enjoy it. I didn't laugh like I did as a kid, but I did enjoy it. Part of that might be just Rick Moranis is incredible in all things that he does. Well, Mel Brooks pretty much invented this genre. Leslie Nielsen would be the one who would carry that mantle through the 80s and 90s, doing things like Airplane and Naked Gun. This movie actually marks maybe not the end, but the ending of when spoof movies were popular. We had other ones like Hot Shots and Dracula Dead and Loving It. All these spoof movies that were just referential humor, like Kai said, but after this, they really started to lean into raunchy humor. So spoof movies after this became Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Epic Movie, Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah, like a superhero movie. They took every genre and subgenre.
Yeah. The writers on this movie actually would go on to write most of those. So that does make me think less of it right off the hop. But I am intrigued because, as we kind of mentioned off the top of this episode, we're about to start this new generation of spoof movies. The new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson comes out this summer. And we know that Spaceballs 2 is in the works. So all of a sudden, they're trying to reclaim this spoof movie. Can it be good again? I don't know. But this one didn't do great. Though you wouldn't necessarily know that financially. This movie cost them $18 million to make, and it brought in $84 million. It got a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it did at least make good money, probably because people were used to a high quality Leslie Nielsen spoof movie.
Yes, a lot of the spoof movies in the last couple of decades have been quite terrible and hard to watch. But I think the idea of parody and referential humor is just such a big part of what Saturday Night Live is. And I think there's a lot of ways in which we enjoy that in 10 or 5-minute segments in a YouTube video. What's really difficult is when they take those ideas and try and stretch them into an hour-and-a-half movie.
I would say that we enjoy parody, but I don't think that we enjoy referential humor very much. Humor that is just referencing something.
Yeah, and actually tying it back to your Home Alone, John, you referenced how the bad guys break into the Home Alone house and then Macaulay Culkin tries to get them with the traps. They don't work. They start beating up this kid and they're saying, this is for doing this and this is for doing that. And then one of the lines is, this is for my girl too. And he says, I wasn't in my girl too.
I wasn't even in them.
Up until that point, I think I can get on board with the joke, but you've just made it so referential that you've actually made it inaccessible for a large audience.
I am not up to date with 90s pop culture or whatever.
Surprise, surprise.
Half of this movie is just, we're doing this random bit now that is not funny. It's just saying, there's another movie that did this. Oh, they're dancing in a weird and funny way with sudden costumes that they didn't have. I don't know what movie that's from. Oh, they're on a bike and they're doing...
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I didn't watch Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
They're on a bike and they're making fun of something, I guess. I don't know. Not funny.
That's a good point. They ride a bike to the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. That is a reference to one of my all-time favorite movies.
Sundance.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But that movie is from 1969.
And I have not seen that movie.
Right, but even this movie that came out in 96...
You would have to be up to
30
date
years
on
ago.
Yeah.
30 years of content.
So there is some weird references, and the director kept saying our target demographic is teenage boys.
Teenage boys
Teenage boys are
watch.
not going to know about Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah. Most spoof movies have two kinds of humor, and they are references and unexpected equals funny. You didn't expect it, therefore it's funny. That horse saying, "Whoa!" as it falls off the building. That was unexpected to us, and so it got a chuckle out of you. But unexpected equals funny doesn't land always. It doesn't stay with you. You need to have actual jokes with setup and punchlines, not just punchlines thrown into a movie. And then when the other half of your jokes aren't even punchlines, they're just, remember this other movie. There aren't any jokes in your movie anymore.
I think referential movies can be funny, but I think the punchline is more important, but it's also different. Like, if I think of a good spoof movie that handles jokes very cleverly, I think of a movie like Blazing Saddles. There's a very famous joke in Blazing Saddles where these two cowboys are riding their horses through the desert, and they come across a telephone booth in the middle of nowhere. The telephone booth is not the joke. That crazy thing that's in the middle of nowhere isn't the joke. That's the setup to the line, "Oh shit, we gotta get some quarters." That's the setup to the punchline. And unfortunately, I think this movie doesn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
Spy Hard, they think the joke is the phone booth, not the line that comes after, I think.
When did you see Blazing Saddles, Chance?
Oh, it's a couple years ago now, but I was planning to watch it again after seeing this movie.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if it's still funny.
I still quote, "Badges. We don't need no stinking badges," from that movie to this day. The rest of the movie is just fine, but that line is pretty amazing.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think Blazing Saddles still falls on the line of Spaceballs to Men in Tights. One of these aged a lot better than the other. I'd have to watch it again,
Yeah.
though, to
And I want to be clear,
really
like,
know.
things that reference other things can still be funny. It's just that they're walking on a tightrope, generally.
There
Like,
are things about this movie that I like. There are very few parts where I actually laughed, but there's some things about it that I don't dislike. There's one scene where there's an assassin woman who's there to kill the main character, and she speaks with his internal monologue. That's a cute bit where he's like, "This type of girl would be a girl that you would want to kill you." And then she says something like, "Well, I can oblige that if you'd like." That's not necessarily funny, but it's building up to what could be a good scene or a good joke. It just doesn't quite deliver. John, do you want to tell us some things that you liked about this movie, or is it mostly just that there were some jokes that hit you right?
It would actually be interesting to count how many seconds between each joke. I can't remember in my adult life having watched a movie with so many jokes. It literally feels like every 5 to 10 seconds there's some kind of humor. There's a ton of them that are throwaways. They definitely go for quantity over quality, but they throw so much at the wall, it's like some of it's bound to stick. It's not a lot of clever humor. It's really stupid, but because it's so stupid, I laugh. And it seems like the kind of jokes that I would come up with as a teenager.
the intended audience.
Yeah, it's a dumb... And I would unexpectedly laugh because there's this one guy who anytime a knife or a sword is thrown, it ends up stabbing this same guy who's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they use his head as a battering ram at one point. And it's a dumb joke, but by the 6th time they stabbed him, it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to laugh now because it's so dumb. like the final battle between the protagonist and antagonist, one's arms are tied up and the other one's missing their arms. So they're literally fighting each other with their torso. And I don't know. It's just funny because it's dumb.
I feel like a lot of this movie is on the cutting room floor.
Mm.
I feel like I've noticed it a bunch of times. One of the opening scenes is that WD-40 is in some woman's house. And then, for some reason, it's actually his house, I think. He's got his painting in that room and his statues and whatever. It's just like, this is just his house. But they say it's some woman's house. Anyways, but the later one I was thinking of, when they're doing their weird sister act stuff, there is a nun who has a giant silver whip that you can see very obviously. The camera's focusing on it, and then they never do anything with it.
The anti-Chekhov's gun.
Exactly.
Show something really interesting and then never pay off.
Literally, when we were watching, I said that was Chekhov's whip. If you show the whip, you have to use it later. So that's ironic that you said that, Chance. I'm very impressed that you pointed that out, Kai. What do we know about this movie in retrospect? One of the things that we know is that the director absolutely hates it. He made it for Disney, and Disney was obsessed with getting the same wins that Naked Gun got. He and them would argue incessantly. Him with the mindset that it had to be a little bit more raunchy, a little bit riskier, because the target audience was supposed to be teenage boys. Disney didn't want to lose out on a single ticket though, so they wanted this to be as PG as possible. Disney and him would come to such a large disagreement that the final cut does not have his input whatsoever, and his version of this movie is 20 minutes longer. So
There's a Schneider cut of this movie.
yeah, I guess. I'm not saying that version is any better, but there is a longer cut. The feedback that Disney was given by the creators of Naked Gun was that it shouldn't be longer than 90 minutes because with spoof humor, you've got to keep it short and snappy. Disney would make it even shorter than that.
You really have to wonder how meandering that other cut would have had to been. Because this movie, nothing gets done for 90% of it.
Actually, that's true. We were watching the movie, and I think there's only 15 minutes left. And I was like, do you wonder how they're going to wrap this up? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that happens in the first 3/4 of the movie is that the scientist gets captured.
If that. The girl gets captured.
Yeah, dumb.
And then recaptured.
Weird Al's in this movie.
We want to talk about the guest appearances?
Yeah, Weird Al's in this movie. National treasure. Too bad he was in this movie.
So, that was once again them trying to recapture Naked Gun.
Oh, this is like a Will Smith song kind of thing.
Weird Al sings, I think, the opener for something like 4 other Leslie Nielsen movies.
Yeah, so this is a Will Smith song type thing. Like how in Men in Black, Will Smith has a song. So then they had to put it in every movie, including Wild Wild West. The worst movie of all time, the greatest song. Going straight to the Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West could be its own episode. That is a wild ride.
It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
With a giant mechanical spider.
Gotta have it.
Yes, we had Ray Charles, the musician, is a bus driver in this movie. The famous wrestler Hulk Hogan show
I'm
up.
still blown away by that.
The model Fabio, known for his beautiful long blonde hair. And from the A-Team, Mr. T is driving a helicopter.
I got none of those.
You don't remember Hulk Hogan?
Oh no, I knew Hulk Hogan was there. Sorry. I have no idea who that other person was supposed to be with Hulk Hogan though.
Do you think that was supposed to be Hillary Clinton? Or do you think it was supposed
That's what I thought too.
So for context...
No, it's Joyce Brothers. Joyce Brothers is a famous advice psychologist.
Oh, okay. So for context, Hulk Hogan is taking down some bad guys, and then he just tags in some random woman.
Looks a lot like Hillary Clinton.
It looks a lot like Hillary Clinton.
I thought maybe it was supposed to be Barbara Walters from 60 Minutes, but apparently neither of my guesses were right. Had to be watching this in the mid-90s, I guess, to get that reference.
John, was that popular, or did you have to Google that, or how did you know?
Yes, I had to Google that.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
Who's that one chick at the end of Spy Hard?
No,
No.
Dad Googled that.
I just went to the IMDb cast.
I Googled it,
And
and
the old-
AI
yeah.
told me
that it
there-
didn't exist.
Yeah.
That Hulk Hogan never tag teams with anybody, and that
No.
you're a liar.
Yeah, it was like Hulk Hogan doesn't tag anyone in at the end of that movie. And I was like, that's not true. I
How
just
dare
watched
you.
this. It's gaslighting me.
This is why I hate AI. It just makes up stuff.
It's-
An eagle
it's so
would
funny
lose
when it
to a
does.
whale because eagles cannot swim.
I was reading about Leslie Nielsen, who's actually Canadian, and they said one of his trademarks in his movies was that he would be deadpan or oblivious to his surroundings, which were often absurd. So I thought, yeah, you know what, that describes it pretty well.
Say what you will about this movie. I don't personally like it. But he is consistent throughout it. Like you said, John, he's kind of oblivious to the chaos that he is creating or he's a part of. He's very good at that, and he does an amazing job at being the dumbest one in the room.
Is he supposed to be incompetent?
I think so.
'Cause they play the joke that he's incompetent, but then they also play the joke that he's also the greatest super spy in the world.
I think of him as being more of a force of nature in his movies. His enemies fear him not because he's actually smart, but because he cannot be stopped. Similar to this would be Bill Murray was in a movie called The Man Who Knows Too Little, where he's a spy, but he doesn't realize he's a spy. He essentially ends up in a situation where people assume that he's a super spy, and then he accidentally saves the world. And they think that he's so cool because he doesn't lose his cool, because he doesn't realize he's in any form of danger. That is kind of what this is, in that he isn't human.
He's a Looney Tunes character in a spy world.
A Looney Tunes character, that's right. There's an anime called Space Dandy. It's about this down on his luck space adventurer who also happens to be the savior of the universe. He's an unkillable, infinitely powerful being who's dumb.
Because he's a cartoon character.
Yeah. That's what I think Leslie Nielsen is in all of his movies. Everyone takes him seriously so that he doesn't have to take the movie seriously.
Which, in a way, carries some similarities to Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
I guess. Except it's the
don't-
opposite dynamic.
Yes,
I don't
that's what I was
know.
about to say.
Ace Ventura
I
is in a
would-
world of people who take everything seriously, whereas this movie is a character who takes everything seriously in a world of wackiness.
Yes.
It's
this
the
is
opposite dynamic.
reverse Venturism.
Venturism?
Yeah. I'm coining that term.
Venturism?
Reverse Venturism.
So Venturism would be when
Taking nothing
everybody
seriously
else
in a
takes
serious world.
you seriously even though you don't.
Exactly. It's going to catch on.
Time to Google if that means something else, because this could be dangerous.
But Ace Ventura is an interesting touch point there, John, because Ace Ventura has all the hallmarks of being spoof comedy, but isn't referential enough to be spoof comedy. It is a very fine line. You're right. This is surprisingly close to that.
Spoof movies can sometimes crutch themselves with being referential. As you said, in Spaceballs, Rick Moranis is hilarious, that it's a really charming movie, but I would not say the parts where it's, this is Star Wars again, are those funny parts.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so I think that's usually why I view spoof as such a low form of comedy. It's intentionally crutching yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny
the
parts,
best parts of Spaceballs are when they go to Plaid, Rick Moranis flies into the dash and is severely concussed. The part where Lone Star throws out the hairdryer in the luggage but continues to carry the luggage. The part where Colonel Sanders walks in on Rick Moranis playing with his toys. You're right, Chance. All the funniest parts of that movie
are the comedy, not the spoof.
That's right.
The funny parts of that movie are not the fact that it's Darth Vader but a big helmet, or Chewbacca but it's a dog guy.
They catch the stunt doubles.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Star Wars.
They accidentally kill a cameraman and
Yeah.
then continue fighting.
That's just dumb humor that
Yeah.
could be in anything. I agree.
We've talked about this being a spoof of many 90s properties, but the underlying spoof through line throughout the whole movie was James Bond. That's the foundation that the storyline's built on. Interestingly enough, it would be a year later that Mike Myers' Austin Powers would come out. And it would take spy spoofs in another direction.
I haven't seen, but I've heard is good, question mark?
You've never seen
No,
a...
I've not seen Austin Powers.
Interesting. I absolutely adored Austin Powers.
This is a Men in
1.
Tights.
I went to see it in theaters multiple times. I loved that movie so much. The second movie I didn't like as much. And by the time the third movie had come out, I was done.
Do you think it still holds up?
Well, that's my question. I don't know. We could consider Austin Powers for a future episode. I'd be intrigued to know if I outgrew it or if the quality of the movies went down. But I cannot watch the later movies. That's a great point, though, John. Austin Powers was huge. The fact that it got multiple movies in theaters is an example of just how well it was able to hold on to the spoof genre. Once again, different than this type of spoof movie because really the only thing they were spoofing was James Bond.
Not every movie ever to exist.
And most of the jokes were not referential. They were characters that Mike Myers created. Because, for people who do not know, Mike Myers plays a large number of the people in the cast. He plays both the good guy and the bad guy. And with each additional movie, he plays more and more characters. But Will Ferrell is in that movie before he became famous.
I'm just really interested to know what volume of these spoof movies is good. Kung Pao or whatever, I wouldn't call that a spoof movie because it's green screening yourself into a movie.
Yeah. Once again, I think it shares a lot of the tropes of what a spoof movie is, but it's not referential to anything. All of the jokes are completely brand new.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that to be a spoof movie. I mean, yes, it had some Matrix reference in there, but it came out in the early 2000s.
Dougal
Literally,
was doing that.
every movie had that.
Yeah.
Even movies nowadays have that.
Yeah.
Remember,
Unfortunately.
Granny does a Matrix.
Space Jam 2, Granny does a Matrix. Tell your friends.
Let's wrap this up. Let's head over to closing. Chance, lead us off.
What's my system?
I'll let you think
Oh
about
boy,
that.
you
Oh,
guys.
right. I'm now what could have been.
I'm just looking at my notes, and there's so many parts of this movie that I wanted to talk about. And then we talked about how bad this movie was that I completely forgot about it.
You can talk about some of those now.
There's lots of things I didn't like about this movie. There's the part where Michael Jackson lights on fire, shows up, and then he dies. There are some guys who hijack a bus, but then they don't do anything. They just kind of wait for WD-40 to stop the bus
It's because speed
and then
is
ride
a
the bus, I
reference.
guess?
Yeah.
I don't know. But essentially, I have to give this movie at least a 1, maybe a 0. I'm just coming at this from a purely technical point. If this is a movie designed to make me laugh, and I laughed once and hated most of it, that fails at what it's fundamentally trying to do. You know what? I am going to give it a 0. It's a 0. I hated this movie. I didn't
Okay.
enjoy myself.
John, soak up that negative energy. I'll save you for last.
Actually, wait.
Oh, our first 0, baby.
Okay,
No,
Kat,
technically Dougal was a 0.
Dougal was a 0.
But you
Yeah,
get to
Dougal
take
was 0
credit
too.
for this 0 by it being the movie that you chose.
Before we go on to my scale, Dad, this movie has a fart joke.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of farts. How many stars does it take off?
Here's the thing. There's only one fart joke in this movie, which for a spoof movie is actually low. Spoof movies, as we've already acknowledged,
restraint.
are the lowest form of comedy. These are for teenage boys. Normally, they'd be farting the whole way through. So I have to give it some acknowledgement for only doing one fart joke. However, we hadn't had a fart joke in so long.
We were doing so good.
I don't even remember when the last movie was with a fart joke. I was feeling really good about it, and here we are again. So I am pissed at this
We're
movie.
back, baby.
Do you want
We're back, baby. I will say that I appreciate that John picked a movie with dinosaurs in it. We are living in
The dinosaur apocalypse right
the
now.
time of great giving.
There's so many movies with dinosaurs.
Yes, this last season's theme was grandparents. This season is dinosaurs, which technically could also be grandparents.
Grandma dinosaur, grandpa dinosaur.
I will give props to John for winning the vote with a spoof movie, just as the spiritual successor to this movie is coming to theaters at this very moment, and for giving us another dinosaur movie in the dinosaur-themed season. But I hate everything else.
You don't hate the horse.
There, John, a little bit more negative
Tim,
energy
is
for
it
you to suck up.
Just the one fart joke.
So will
you
you ever
only
see this?
need one fart joke.
I feel my powers
ruined the
growing.
So will you ever see this movie again, or?
Oh, we already know I will never watch this movie again. Honestly, before John brought it up, I had pleasantly forgotten that this movie existed. I don't know if I can ever return to that level of bliss, but I will forget as much about this movie as I can.
Okay, John, it's time for me to fuel you a little bit more. Just as a recap, for those of you who have noticed that my scale has changed every single episode for the past 4 episodes, my current system is that I look at the movie and I say, what would I have changed? So, what would I have changed in this movie? I would have removed at least 90% of the referential humor. This movie does not try to be self-contained. I would try to inject this movie with humor of its own instead of, oh, that's Macaulay Culkin, or that's Speed.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. This movie is very dated.
Mm-hmm.
So even someone who would have appreciated it in the mid to late 90s would not get the same level of satisfaction. Now, I think about Wreck-It Ralph.
Breaks the internet?
The first movie is perfect. It's a love letter to video games in general. The second Wreck-It Ralph movie is really a snapshot of the internet at the moment that script was written. The movie heavily references eBay, which is not something that really exists anymore. And I remember seeing that movie in theaters and immediately thinking, this movie is super dated. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily dated yet. eBay was already on its way out, but it was one of those things where it was like, oh, this doesn't have the same timelessness that the first movie does. And I think that you're right about referential humor in that way. Soon as you depend on something else for your punchline, like you said, it's not self-contained. You can't watch this movie in a vacuum and appreciate it. You have to know other things before you watch it.
You need to research to get the most out of this movie. You cannot be a good movie if you rely on another movie's success. John.
All right, John.
How does it feel to be
We've given you all of our negative energy.
Oh.
We're giving you our spirit bomb. It's your job to use it.
All right, now it's your time to shine. Use all of our hatred. Strike me down.
There's not a lot of things that bring up this much dopamine. What a rush. I did write a love letter before I watched the movie.
This is the second time?
Yeah, I'm reformed. What can I say?
You made me want to change, Spyhard.
Dear Spyhard, thank you. You made several of my sleepovers funnier. You showed me that people can be silly and have a good time regardless of their age. You helped give the language to poke fun at films and their tropes. I think after watching it, I realized that this movie is not high enough quality that I'd watch it again. But if I was ever forced to watch another Leslie Nielsen parody, I would commit to it and laugh a lot. I don't read a lot of fiction books, but when in school I was forced to read fiction books, I was like, this is a good time. I don't think I'd ever choose or prioritize another Leslie Nielsen parody film, but if I was forced to watch another one, I'd be like, okay, let's have some fun.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. A lot of it is the mindset that you go into it with and being open to laughing. Even the funniest movie isn't going to be funny if you're not open to laughing. This movie is not the worst movie that we've watched on this podcast.
That's Dougal by a long shot.
That's Dougal by a long shot. But this movie is not good.
Tim?
Yeah.
Are you saying when it comes to farts, it's a matter of open-mindedness? Like you could enjoy them a lot more if you allowed yourself to?
Dad's closed himself off from true comedy.
True comedy. Just last episode, I acknowledged that you had a funny poop fart joke, John.
He's given you rope, and now you're burning it.
Yeah, I acknowledge that you made a good joke in a field that I hate to laugh at. So you have accomplished what very few people on Earth have. And it's weird to me that you're trying to annoy me or something out of that acknowledgement. I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
I just wanted one last little snack.
Of bitterness. Bitterness never tasted so sweet.
Welcome to our secondary podcast, Bitterness and Anger, hosted by John.
Do it. Strike me down. All right, so that is about all we're doing for this episode of the podcast, I think. Next episode, we are hoping to be back with our semi-regular guest, Eric, to review another movie that Eric and I watched in high school. I think the takeaway is that Eric and I watched some shitty movies when we were in high school. I can't wait for you guys to experience Babysitter's Club. I'm not going to say anything past that. If we don't do Babysitter's Club next, it's because our schedules didn't align, and then we'll surprise you guys with something else. In the meantime, praise Beethoven.
Look out for weirdos.
Praise Beethoven indeed.
Don't forget to breathe in and out.
That's right. All right. Catch y'all on the flip.
Can we not do any carryover jokes from this movie?
Yeah. No making any
It's a personal
references.
request.
No referential
I
humor,
feel-
guys.
Yeah, that's referencing
feel
a reference. Because that's all this movie was, referential humor.
His long drink order? I thought that was funny.
I didn't think that was funny. But...
Sorry, John. Your opinion's bad.
Sorry, comedy denied.